Welcome everyone. It is 5:15 on Monday, November 25th, 2019, and the Carroll City Council meeting is now in session. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please note everyone is in attendance. Our first item this evening is the consent agenda, which is approval of minutes of the November 11th meeting, approval of bills and claims. We have no licenses and permits this evening. We also have an acceptance of the tobacco settlement agreement. Our fiscal year 2020-2021 budget schedule and council meeting dates for calendar year 2020 are available. We also have a water distribution main replacement for 2019, change order number 1. We have a street resurfacing for 2019, change order number 1, and a certificate of substantial completion. We also have the 2019 Community Development Block Grant, Owner Occupied Housing Rehabilitation Grant, with a sub-recipient agreement with Region 12, a technical services agreement with Region 12, and a project address approval. And finally, the Carroll Public Library, Carroll City Hall, change order number 1, Carroll City Hall certificate of substantial completion.
Change order number 8, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, change order number 8, sorry. No, thank you.
With that, I so move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Base? Yes. Fleshner?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item, are there any oral requests and communications from the audience for things that are not on the agenda? Okay. We'll move to ordinances. And the first ordinance this evening is on the Carroll City Ordinance, Chapter 136.03 Amendment, Sidewalk Clearing, second reading, and Brad, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the same ordinance we discussed at the last council meeting. Since then, we publicized it through the local media. It's also been on the social media, I believe, and I have not heard any feedback on this at all. So I don't know if you guys have or not, but this does deal with the removal of snow and ice from sidewalks during the winter months. So my recommendation would be is if there's no questions or you haven't heard anything that we need to change, I would just waive all readings and approve the ordinance.
I hadn't heard anything, I don't know if anybody else.
No, our last meeting, when I was home that night watching Channel 13 News, theirs is 24 hours in Des Moines.
And this,
No.
I believe this one came from 2 or 3 different ordinances across the state. A lot of them were the 24 hours.
Are there any other questions for Jack, or for Brad, sorry, or Jack? If not, I'll need a motion to waive the second and third reading of the ordinance change to chapter 136, section 03 of the city Carroll ordinance.
So move. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Go ahead and vote, please.
Base? Yes. Dirks?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
And then a motion to accept the ordinance.
Second.
No other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Base? Yes. Haley?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
Thank you. The next item is under resolutions, and it's the 6th amended and restated downtown urban renewal internal loan. And Laura, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the past several years, council has passed a separate resolution to create an interfund loan to transfer money from our from our water fund to the Corridor of Commerce Project Fund, in essence to pay for the streetscape projects as well as our Highway 30 and Grant Road intersection. We do have already currently built into this current fiscal year 21 budget $1.2 million to finish the Highway 30 Grant Road intersection project and Streetscape Phase 9, and to, plus an estimated amount for construction for Phase 10 that plans to go out for bid soon. Is that correct, Randy, for Phase 10?
This one, yes.
This does not include any construction funds for Phase 11, which is anticipated for a few more years down the road. The reason for this is we would like to use TIF or tax increment financing funds to repay the loan. And in order to do that, we need to create a debt instrument showing that we are anticipating to do this project. We've worked with our bond counsel and to put this resolution into place, and then we'll need to certify this to our county auditor by December 2nd or by December 1st each year in order to say we would like to collect TIF in our downtown, from our downtown urban renewal area to repay this debt. So before you tonight is that resolution, as well as a proposed repayment schedule to repay that debt, and that should have funds available. We should be able to collect enough money in our TIF area to pay that. Plus have a little room for when a potential other debt would come on, we would have enough funds to do that. Are there any questions about the resolution or what we're proposing to do?
We've done these before, so.
Yes, we have done these before.
I didn't have any questions. Anybody else have any questions? If not, I will need a motion to approve the resolution that authorizes the internal loan to the Corridor of Commerce Capital Project Fund from the Water Utility Fund and pledging tax increment revenues from the downtown urban renewal area for the repayment of the loan.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any other discussion? If not, we'll go and vote, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Space?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next item is under reports, and it is the rental housing code, and Mike, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As the Council is aware, we have been working for the last several months to draft a rental housing inspection program and a rental housing code. This comes out as a priority that's been identified for a number of years by the City Council. At the May 28th meeting, the Council did review this during a workshop, and open houses was held in June initially. Three property owners, rental property owners, came to the July 8th meeting and had some discussions at that point, and wanted to discuss the proposed ordinance. Staff then worked and discussed various options with various property owners leading up to November 11th. At our last meeting, where we held another general discussion like we are this evening. This is not listed as a reading of an ordinance tonight, so staff's not looking for action by the council at this point. Since the November 11th meeting, staff has been part of a number of conversations, including a couple council members, both with some landlords that are here this evening, additionally with a general landlord meeting organization that was held last Thursday. We are taking a lot of that input and we'll be working on making some additional revisions that will be presented at a future council meeting for council's consideration. This is very much in a draft format and really just looking for some discussion. To that end, staff is bringing this back for some additional discussion and direction. It really has three kind of key questions we'd like some direction on. They were detailed in the staff memo to council. First is the council's desire to offset some of the costs of the rental housing program through fees that would be levied towards property owners, or is a desire to use general tax levy dollars to fund the program. Second is how frequently do we do inspections. Currently the ordinance outlines a 3-year inspection cycle. There could be some discussion about if you had property owners that passed the first inspection without the need for a reinspection, that we extend out possibly a year 4 without requiring a new inspection. On the flip side, those properties that would take 2 or 3 re-inspections, that we have more frequent inspections of those properties. And then third is how do we, if if a fee to the property owners is decided to be the funding mechanism for the program, how do we levy that fee? And we've had a lot of discussion, it's been probably the most important component of those discussions. Back in May, when we first proposed it, we were discussing it at a time of inspection fee. We've received a lot of feedback at that point, and so we kind of retooled it to a annual permit fee. And really in Iowa, the model ordinances we've reviewed, that's really the two ways that you fund these programs, either at a time of inspection or an annual fee. The idea is with the annual fee, you're kind of breaking up that costly inspection cycle over a number of years versus a time of inspection where you pay and you're done. This becomes more important, especially if we decide to change the frequency of inspections. And obviously those landlords that are good actors and having good inspections, having fewer inspections, having that time of inspection fee would save them money, where some of those landlords that are having inspections that are not passing and we have to do follow-up more frequently to try to encourage them to have better inspection cycles. So those are kind of the three general questions. Staff is just looking for direction from council on how to proceed with those items. With that, I'd be happy. Greg's also happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I mean, I guess I'd like to see the rental housing fees be part of that instead of just all general fund.
Mr. Mayor,
That's where I'm at.
if I could please address the council, I have had the opportunity to have many good conversations with area renters, the landlords, I should say, not the renters.
Right.
Myself and Mr. Hoagie Weaver, as well as Chief Schreck, attended a meeting that the landlords held last Thursday, and it was a very well attended meeting. A lot of very good engaged landlords were there and gave us some good feedback there. After that meeting, I did ask that I meet with some of them, and I had a meeting this morning with 3 of the landlords, along with Mr. Hoagie Weaver and Chief Schreck again, and we were able to go through a lot of details, and I really feel we got through some things that we can certainly work towards common ground on. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that the number one concern of the landlords I've talked with is that they not be charged until they are found to have some deficit, to have done something wrong. And I say that not as a proponent of it. I can stay neutral on this as to whether, we pay for it with general fund or if we pay for it with fees to the renters to the landlords. But it needs to be known that is one of their primary concerns, is that they do not pay until they are found to have done something wrong. It was a really good engaged conversation this morning. I met with another landlord this afternoon, had another good conversation. I think we took a lot from that, didn't we, Mr. Hoagie Weaver, to go back and work on?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's,
So you got some of the answers to some of these questions that are outlined in here then?
I think we've got some good direction towards them, yes, sir.
And I would say there is some items that staff will go back and likely make some revisions to address some of the concerns. That doesn't mean that every item we'll see eye to eye with, but we took the discussion we had to heart and we'll work to address a lot of those issues.
I mean, fees, that was my point of contention. I don't wanna gouge anybody, but at the same time, I want it to be fair to the rest of, that it's not coming out a lot of general fund. I think that's representative of some fairness to it. But
So Clay, if I understand this right, we would only levy something if there was something wrong.
That is my understanding of it,
Okay.
yes, Jerry.
So
That
taking this to the extreme, if everybody's perfect, we get no funds.
0 if everybody was perfect,
Okay.
yes.
That'd be great.
Wouldn't it be
Yes,
awesome?
it would.
Yeah.
The trouble I would see is if there's one person, one thing wrong in one place, are they gonna fund the entire inspection program then? That would be my, obviously, I'm
Certainly,
going on the extreme sides here, but.
I'm glad you are too, Jerry.
Yeah.
No, certainly not. That would not be the intention of the program to load it onto one.
Do you have in your mind how this should work?
I don't. You know, I asked for help from the landlords. They've given us some good help, and I know anyone in this room would be happy to give us more help and more information from their perspective. But it is the council's job now to balance that out with the needs and safety of the renters, as well as the housing stock for Carroll. And no, I wish not to be a proponent or an opponent either way to funding. I just hope that the wisdom of the council can prevail and we can find a good way to make this work for all parties involved. I feel this is important. We need this inspection program.
Just quickly, I think, I put a note here before I got here. I think putting the emphasis on the inspection fees takes us away from, as Dave Farrell said at our last meeting, from punishing the many for the few. And, I think that's reasonable. I think that's a direction I would like to see us head in, however it evolves, is putting the emphasis on the inspection. And maybe considering, if you have a good inspection, as Mike said earlier, pushing out the next inspection out from 3 years forward.
5 or 4.
So we're offering carrots, not just sticks, and, I think that's worth considering. I know I've looked at a few other ordinances in other cities, and sometimes just to recognize who owns the rental properties and to get, a sense of where we're at with our rental properties. Some cities do, have a one-time, permit fee. And sometimes it travels, owners can change, but the one-time permit fee, then they're on record. We know who they are, we know who the owners, managers, et cetera are. Some then ask for a permit fee if the property changes hands. So there's a couple ways of doing that. I don't believe a one-time permit or licensure fee, however we wanna call it, is punitive or unreasonable if we keep the amount reasonable, yes. So, and I also see some towns also escalate, if additional inspections are needed, they incentivize getting it right the first time by increasing, okay, if we come back a second time, we're going to charge you a little bit more, and if we come back a third time, there will be more. So trying to incentivize, get it right the first time, then we'll push down the road 4 years instead of 3. I really do appreciate the comments that Margaret and Dave made. I went home and thought about what you said. It's an emotional thing, it's something new for all of us. And I really gave a lot of thought to your comments after the last meeting, and thank you.
I just didn't want it to be a punitive
No,
type thing.
no,
Especially for all those that are doing the right thing and getting it done correctly and providing what we need to be provided for, so. I mean, even just what we've gone down to is even less. If there's something less that we can do, that's fine, but, okay.
One other critical component I feel that came out of this, and it was Margaret and Dave and Leo that I met with earlier today. But I think one important thing that came from that was, how are we going to decide who is on the help me out, Mike?
Rental housing board.
The board, yeah, the appeals board, that's what I was looking for, who's going to be on the appeals board? We have it as a 3-person board right now, and that's one thing we all need to cogitate on a little bit and figure out what we think is the best way to do that. There was recommendations of perhaps a steering committee to help form that and bring that to council so that it could then be approved by council. But something to make sure these are general tradespeople as well as a representative from the landlords who's on that appeals committee to help make sure it's a fair program that has good representation should it need to be used.
So, and it, you know, and I don't mind, I guess I wouldn't mind having a landlord on the committee, but if that landlord is having an issue, maybe have an alternate, you know, so that that landlord isn't on the committee if there's a problem.
Great.
So,
As it stands now, you appoint, we
right,
approve,
you
correct?
approve,
Correct.
correct.
So if we get the fee settled out, are the landlords okay with the inspection?
I think with changes, we have some changes that we discussed today need to happen. Margaret, I think I saw your hand come up.
This gentleman will have something to say.
As a
Come on, is it Dan?
Dan,
Sorry, come on up here and if the, speak in the microphone so the rest of the public can hear you. Thank you.
As a landlord, I'm fairly convinced that my property would meet inspection, but I don't know what the inspection is. And I would like to see, if you're gonna have an inspector come out, I'm assuming you're gonna have a checklist of some sort, okay? And I'd like to see a copy of that checklist before they come out, because if I can take care of everything before they come out, it's not an issue.
Yep.
If I don't know what they're looking at,
Right.
I'm assuming I'm in compliance, but I don't know. And if you're gonna vote on this, I think that ought to be on the table up front so that we can all see what that is.
Yeah, we're not voting on it tonight.
No, I understand.
Yeah,
I understand,
but we
you're
do-
discussing it, and I'm.
We've got a checklist and it was in with the ordinance. And,
It's just a proposal at this time.
right, and it has all the items that we would be looking at.
Okay.
Yeah.
It makes reference to
That's
each,
been going on.
each
Okay,
section.
okay, I haven't seen that, that's the first thing that came to mind when I started hearing about what was going on, so.
No, we're gonna make sure that you guys get the checklist ahead of time to do whatever you would need to do to correct anything. Yeah, this isn't we're not out to try and do a gotcha. We're giving you the answers, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I think most of the landlords, will take a look at that and fix the problem before
Correct,
an inspection's even done,
correct.
so. That's my main concern at this point, other than the fee thing, but you're already
Yeah.
discussing that, so,
one of the things we also.
Try and keep that as minimal as possible.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And let me just add, one of the things we committed to also was to go through and have meetings where landlords can come, talk with the inspector, and really have information up front, because we don't wanna go, I mean, if you know me and my philosophy, this is not a gotcha thing, we really wanna educate the public, educate the property owners, because the last thing I wanna do is a situation where we never wanna cite someone, for example. I mean, I know there was some discussion about, well, you know, there's penalties in here, that's the last thing that the city ever wants to do, those are worst case scenarios when you take those. So we really do wanna work with the landlord, so if the council decides to go down this route, I can commit to you that, you know, staff will hold information meetings, it'll be more than one, and we'll publicize them so that people can be well informed before we even set foot into a unit.
Here's your name again, Margaret, please. Thank you, appreciate it.
Margaret Sidovers, I'm with Camden Apartments. Back of the room is having a hard time hearing, so is there any way to turn up the volume, or no? Okay. You just have to
Unless
talk.
they need one of those, we have those hearing, those assisted devices back there too, if they want one of those.
There's a assisted device back there if you can't hear.
Sit over there.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All right,
Margaret.
I'm there.
Yeah,
First thing is, I guess, in the dream world, we wouldn't want these fees at all. That was the perfect world. If there has to be, then we want it based on what was found, because like you said, the majority of us, and I'm beg to differ if it's anything more than 98% of us are doing the right thing. So, if you're worried about, I guess my question is, Jerry, you would ask, as far as if they don't find anything, how are we gonna fund this person maybe? If this person, I mean, what I got from one of the other meetings is this person being hired was in the 2016 budget. If that was already in budget funds, why would you develop this program using the inspection fees as part of it, I guess? Because that's where we feel that, especially if you try to do it every year and a permit, and do an inspection every 3 or 4 years, but yet do it annually, no one wants to pay ahead for something they're not even getting paid. So, that would be one of my complaints as well. but, and like I said, based on the current structure, it would have been $1,000 a year. I mean, and we're all trying to provide affordable housing, and it is becoming harder and harder to do because everything goes up. I haven't raised the majority of my rents, and I've had them, it'll be 10 years in February. So I think, as I think David or Leo pointed out, this is basically 20% of Carroll's population of the rentals based on an estimate. So you're affecting a lot of people, and like I pointed out one meeting, we don't even require first and last month's rent, the majority of us do not, because we know the majority of our tenants cannot afford that and pay rent on top of it. So,
I was, after that last meeting, and I was talking with Mike, and I'm looking at some of the larger developments, something similar to yours, I'm going, yeah, it's $1,000 a month, or an additional $1,000 a year. That's just, and year after year after year. And if you're doing everything you're supposed to, why the penalty? And so that's kind of, I think, why we started to go down another path to try and get it a little more reasonable, so.
and just FYI, one toilet by a tenant, a lady, who did not know that if the flappers stuck open, cost me an additional $210 a month. I don't even know if it was for the full 30 days. But that's just one thing, and then I had another one, so I mean, basically my water bill for this month alone is up over $400 higher than what the average should be. All these costs add up, and I just want everybody to realize it gets harder and harder as a landlord to make any money.
Right.
And you don't wanna drive the current landlords out of town. So.
Okay.
Anything else?
But my question before is, you know, if we get the fee thing figured out, are you guys okay with the inspection?
I think, I guess most of us would say yes, and especially if you gave this, the checklist ahead of time, and we
Yeah.
can address them ourselves.
That was the
because-
whole intent from
Yeah.
this, from the very beginning, was to
Yeah.
give it to you.
Yeah.
So, cause we're not, that was never, we wanna get out to get you.
Yeah.
It was to give it so that you knew what was coming.
Yes.
And if you had time to correct it, then you could correct it,
Yes.
and then there's no penalty.
And like I said, the majority of us are either through HUD or some type of insurance agency, already have some type of inspection, so we kinda
Right.
know what to look for. If it's different than that, I guess that's what we wanna know too.
Does HUD give you the checklist?
Well, we've seen it, they
Yeah.
provide it to you, you have to sign everything, yeah.
And how often do they
HUD,
report?
basically it's supposed to be every year, and I think they're doing every other now because they're providing it knowing it's harder to provide those inspections to all the people, so. But their lease itself is year.
I'm gonna be honest a little bit, I was not going down the road of having it free, just to be honest with you, but, I guess I'm willing to talk about that if you guys are willing to have the inspection.
Okay.
Cause I had a piece of paper made out on how much it actually costs, and the percentage is very low, especially when you have multiple units. And I'm like, well, this isn't very much money, but if you're willing to accept to have the inspection, which, you know, earlier that wasn't. You know, a lot of people were against that, but now, you know, you gotta talk things over.
Well, one thing that we kind of discussed too, this code is, or ordinance states the additional, well, right now, with HUD, if you have it in the hallway near the bedrooms, that's okay to have one smoke alarm there. This one would be one in each bedroom, so I would have to add 2 with 59 of mine. So figure just $10, two of them in every apartment, because I'd have to add 2 because I already have one in my hallway. I'm not gonna take that one out of my hallway, I'd have to buy 2. So I'd have to buy basically 119 smoke alarms, right off the bat. Okay.
Your penalty is to buy a smoke alarm,
Yeah.
and then.
Then, like I said, I already have a CO
City.
detector, and people walk off with them. You would not be, it would blow your mind what people walk off with. Batteries, CO detectors, so.
This is part of the good discussion that we had today, and it's part of what I think we can massage and change up a little bit. I'm not granting anything yet, but it's definitely a place where now we have that feedback, we can take a look at it and see if there's a good way to reach some common grounds and make it better for everybody.
Right, And if safety is the major concern, we're all for that. But if you're looking for the fee to be supplemented on us, that's what we have a problem.
Do you think once your home is inspected and it passed, do you think that will attract renters more than not passing?
No, I think it's word of mouth. I mean, it typically,
So it
if-
doesn't mean anything.
yeah, like I said, I have a lot of people that work at Bach and, and they recommend to them, hey, Margaret's a good landlord. To me, it's word of mouth. They're not gonna say, hey, they passed the city inspection. Let's go there. So,
It's gonna be cost.
Yeah.
And whenever I rent an apartment in college, medical school, or like traveling for residency, internships, it was cost. How much is it gonna cost me?
I will provide the details to the council and have that available from our meeting today too, with some of the points we talked about.
and I do appreciate the discussion that we've had. When we had our landlord meeting, they were there, and to me, it's the communication on what is expected of each that really helps.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
Thank you, Margaret. So you kind of have an idea where you need to go?
Well, I mean, I think the fee discussion is one that needs to be continued.
Dave, good to see you again. I need to have you pronounce
Dave
your
Carroll.
name again, please. Thank you.
Own some rental property.
Mhm.
I would suggest to you people that you're not looking at the total picture. You're looking at this as, okay, these are rental units and so on. The reason I say it's not the total picture, and the city manager can correct me if he's got a better set of figures than I do, but you can find these on the internet. Basically, in the city of Carroll right now, based upon figures off the internet, about 6% of the people in this town make less than $10,000 a year. That's not very much money. Basically, if we go down and we find that people who make between, these figures are from 2017, people who make between $10,000 and $20,000 a year make up 11% of our population. If we go down to $30,000 to $40,000, we find out that that's about 10.7% of our population. Now, the reason I got interested in this is Margaret and I started talking about how much money do our renters make? And the answer is not a lot. Now, we have some property owners who have high-end apartments for rent, but the majority of us do not. And so when you talk about, well, this isn't gonna be very much, well, yeah, it is. If you make 20 grand a year and we come in and say, well, we're gonna increase your rent $10 a month, it'll make a difference to some of these people. So keep in mind that it's not just something that you're talking about that's gonna affect the property owners, it's gonna affect the tenants, which is 20% of your population. So if you want low-income housing, you wanna help some of these people, take a look at what you're doing. Thank you.
Why would you say $10 a month when we're only charging $35 a year for this?
Because if you come in and you find something wrong, I've gotta fix it. You just cost me a
Wouldn't you
whole
wanna
bunch
do
of
that?
money.
Would you wanna do that anyway for your tenants?
Well, there could be some things that you may think are not appropriate, and I may think, yeah, they're just fine. Mr. Haley and I've had this discussion for 3 hours today, along with the city manager, about some things that, classic example, screens on the windows. Now, in every rental unit that I have, we have double paned, low E glass. They're all replacement windows. I don't want those people to open the windows. It brings in dust and dirt. I have central air conditioning in every one of those. Yet, you're gonna require me to go out and put screens in those windows. Well, that ain't gonna be cheap,
Dave, I think we talked about that, and you can have an agreement with your
as
tenant
long
that
as we
says-
write it into it.
Yes.
Yep.
That can be eliminated, where you don't have to do that, if your tenant is agreeable.
And those are some of the details that we did go through today. We took and went soup to nuts on this thing, we went
Right,
all the way through.
You have a thing in here about storm windows. Oh, do we really need storm windows? That kind of thing. So it's not just, well, we're just charging you this amount of money. Not only that, your time's worth something, our time is worth something. And so, you know, to say, well, this ain't gonna cost very much, yeah, it is. Thank you.
Thank you. So now you have an idea where you're going.
I just wanna hit the fee component, because I think it's one of those things you really have to be thoughtful of.
Mhm.
I totally understand that we wanna place the onus on why we're here in the first place and those bad actors that are out there. But I also wanna balance that with, I don't think you wanna create a ordinance structure or a fee structure that kind of becomes this perverse. Staff is encouraged to go find violations to create revenue. That's why you create fee structures that are neutral in their application. I would never ask our police chief to go and round up 100 speeders this month because we need to hit some revenue numbers. I don't think you want that situation where someone feels like, because we'd never ask it, but I don't think you want to create a situation where you have an inspector that feels they need to justify what they're doing. So I would, kind of a cautionary note of, I think you really need to think about the fee structure in a way that is not creating a situation where we're trying to generate revenue. Because that's not the way cities kind of operate generally.
That could be something understood also with the inspector, that, hey, this is not a revenue generator too.
I think the fundamental question is, I still go back to it, does the council want this to be a self-sustaining program off fees, or do they want to subsidize it with general levy dollars? That's kind of the first question, how do they want the program to operate? And then you have the second question of, how do you structure your fees in an appropriate way? And certainly, I'd be the first to admit, like a $15 reinspection fee, that probably should be looked at. That's we were trying to look at a fee that wasn't trying to be punitive. Maybe we need to get some onus to really encourage people to take those first inspections seriously. But we can take a look at the fee, but I need some direction on, first of all, I think, how do what do you want the program to look like? Self-supporting, or subsidized with general levy dollars?
So do we want the money to come from the general fund, or do we want it to come from fees
Correct.
from the program, correct?
Correct. We can go into a discussion of how those fees are structured and who, what does an inspection fee look like? Do you have one? What are reinspection fees? But I think the first fundamental question is, who pays?
I think I need to see some more numbers. First of all, this is a third of the wages of this person?
Correct.
Okay, so how many rental fees is it gonna take to pay for a third of that person's wages? Those numbers I'd like to see. You don't have to answer them tonight.
Yeah,
I need a little more data on
this is
this.
still under report, so we're not
Right.
taking any action on that anyway.
And then that can tell me how much we're gonna bite the bullet or break even, or what it's gonna cost. I don't wanna guess on this.
Yeah, we have the fees, like Dave got the numbers, and those
How
are
many
census
units, how many
numbers.
units it's gonna take for him or them,
Yeah.
that person, to break even on this if we do charge fees.
Yep. And we've looked at all that, so I have that readily available.
So you think of now, probably a phone call away if I think of more.
Anything else?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all the landlords and stuff for being part of this process. This is what we wanted the whole time, is buy-in, so we're not doing this in the back. So thank you for your time. I'd also like to thank Councilman Haley and stuff. This is something that Clay and I come up with about 5 years ago. It's kind of a driving force that we wanted to see, and it's come to fruition and such. And Clay's been putting a lot of time in, thank you for that. One of the things I do want you to consider, or do want to throw out there, when you start talking about how we're gonna pay for this. I've looked at this through most of the time as, do we want the taxpayer paying for this? And I've been a little bit opposed to it, and as I kind of think more and more about this, I look at it as a homeowner, my house can have every violation that's in this that we're expecting landlords to meet. And there's no punitive action for that. So looking at it from that perspective, if we take the onus off the landlords and spread it out throughout the population base, it does make it a little more fair and equitable throughout. So, I guess what I'm saying is, if we absorb it through the tax base, I'm okay with that.
And to that, not only does the landlord owner of the apartment or rental unit, they also pay property taxes on top of that too. And then you hit them up with another fee, you're right. And, you know, bringing theirs up increases the value, it increases everybody's value. The rising tide floats all boats, and that's what I think what we're trying to look at is to make everything, make it look a little better.
So one question I also wanna ask is, what does that permit give to the landowner? What does that permit do? Is it telling them they have a permit to operate? Does it say that they are meeting the standards within the city? What does that permit do?
It does basically both. I mean, it allows them to rent their property and that they are meeting our standards.
So with that, my reservation with doing an annual permit in a 3-year, 4-year, 5-year inspection cycle, if we issue a permit this year and there's issues that come up where there's violations that happen throughout that second, third year, we're issuing permits saying you meet the criteria when maybe it doesn't. So I think by issuing that permit annually, kind of gives a false sense there.
So one of the provisions in the code today is if, while you have that frequency, that could be 3 years, or if we change that frequency, another component is if there's a complaint made, then that would be subject to an inspection at that point after 1 year. So there'd be a 12-month window where they wouldn't be subject to another inspection. But the code, the way it's written today, would require another inspection upon complaint after that 1 year window.
But if you take that all out of the mix, you understand what I'm saying, is if you're giving somebody a permit on year 2, you're assuming nothing's changed. And if something has changed, we're permitting something that shouldn't have.
But isn't there something in place with this where the tenant can call the city?
Yes. I mean, they can make a complaint.
Right.
And then that would.
Before this, there was nothing in place for that tenant.
But now, for sure, there is some language in this, and we talked about language both being specific and a little more vague. There's some latitude within it for the inspector as well, so that a one-off complaint from a tenant does not cause a problem for that landlord immediately. Instead, that it would be a cumulative effect of a number of complaints or violations that are found.
I don't remember seeing that anywhere in here, is that,
It's in there.
it is, okay.
About 6 pages of it.
Okay.
Start at the back and go forward and you'll find it all.
It's a pretty accurate statement, a lot of good detail in the back.
So now you know, is that a good idea to start?
We'll take another run at it.
Sounds good. All right, well, the next item on the agenda is the 2019 annual planning session report, and Mike, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Included in the council's packet was a copy of the 2019 annual planning session report that was developed by the council's November 4th, 2019 work session. Page 8 would be the area that I would direct your attention to directly, but on page 8 was our priority programs and activities for the upcoming year and organizational effectiveness. Specifically under priority programs and activities for the upcoming year, there were 3 goals included in the planning report. First was related to the rec center, look at a smaller project with locker room, gym, walking track, and a referendum on March 3rd of 2020. Second was street projects and increase the overall funding. And third was train horn mitigation, obtain new information on how much a new study would cost. Under organizational effectiveness, what I would say this generally was 4 towards communication from the city. Continue to hold regular workshops with the council. City manager to continue to hold regular meetings with staff. Continue to improve communications with the residents on what's occurring ongoing within the city. Additionally, I mean, it was a real emphasis on communication with the public, and it was really emphasized in this report. There was a discussion also on reviewing our city's website and social media for analytics to understand the type of information that the public is seeking on the information, kind of timely when they're seeking that information. And finally, was to continue a review of the overall financial policies of the city and make changes and updates as necessary. So if the report is approved this evening, a separate document will be created and presented at a meeting in December that will outline the work plan on these items and other ongoing activities over the next 12 months for the council's approval, and that will be presented in December. This work plan would include items such as timeline, responsible party, and targeted dates for future work sessions that would be needed for those items. Then that work plan document would then be served as, or will serve as a guideline for staff to implement the priorities and action steps for the council and the city for the upcoming year. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Would recommend that the council receive the 2019 annual planning session report dated November 4th, 2019. I'm happy to answer any questions the council has this evening.
Any questions? No, I need a motion to approve the 2019 annual planning session report dated November 4th, 2019.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, go ahead and vote, please.
Cox?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Bates?
I trust everyone's read the committee reports and the monthly activity reports. Hope everybody has a safe and wonderful Thanksgiving. Thanks, Randy, for getting out. I saw the salt truck this morning. My car loves you. Yeah. Are there any comments from the city council? Any from the city manager? If not, we'll go to the Carroll Recreation Center Building Improvements Concept Planning and Feasibility Study Workshop. What? Oh, all right, the city manager needs a 3-minute break, so just a second. Yeah, no, I'm good. All right, sorry. And, go ahead and you can turn it back on, and we are ready to go. We're gonna have a discussion now with regards to the Carroll Recreation Center Building Improvements Concept Planning and Feasibility Study Workshop for 2019, and Jack, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The council had put a committee together to have a discussion, on the recreation and feasible study, building improvements. And we interviewed 3 local firms, and RDG was the one that rose to the top. And since then, we've had 3 or 4 meetings with our committee. In my schedule, it kind of outlines the things that we have accomplished and the things that we feel need to come up next. And we're at the point tonight where Al is with us to give you an updated presentation. A couple of his slides are going to be different than what you saw in your memo tonight. We have asked Al and RDG for a couple extra slides that wasn't in the presentation that I think you'll find of some use tonight. So I want to thank Al and his team. They've done a very good job. We're very happy so far with where we're at, and then we'll answer any questions the council has. And we're looking forward to some direction from you on where you think we want to go next with this project. Al, thank you.
Very good. Mayor, members of the council, Al Oberlander with RDG Planning and Design out of our Des Moines, Iowa office. We've had the good fortune of working with your committee over the last few months, and what I'd like to do is just give you a snapshot of what the study has entailed and kind of our findings coming out of that particular effort. So on the screen is the agenda. I'll go through a series of these things. I'll try and go through it fairly quickly for you. As was mentioned by Jack, we've had a series of meetings. We started in May, and we started out by just collecting information on what people liked and did not like, some of the deficiencies of the existing facility, and tried to get a vision for where people wanted to go with improvements to the recreation center. We came back and looked at a series of options of how we could meet the needs that we were hearing within the community. We worked with the committee to kind of evaluate and narrow those down to some things that we thought were achievable. And then we refined those and brought back some final exhibits about a month ago. So I'm here to report on that. As part of that analysis, we've also done a market analysis and operational plan and a community survey. So I can go through that with you as well. So the first part of this is just talking about the program. When we talk about a program, that really entails what are the spaces that make up this facility. So overall, what we're looking at here are some improvements to the locker room facilities that you have right now. They're very outdated. They're kind of classic in that they have not changed much over the last number of years. And there are new things out there related to locker rooms right now. So we're looking at remodeling the locker rooms. We're also looking at enhancing the pool. The pool that you have is pretty traditional lap competition diving pool. Today's recreation users often desire different types of water activities, leisure water, current channels, and those kind of things. So this looks at starting to add those components into the project while maintaining the lap competition and diving features that you currently have. We've also looked at adding additional activity space, multi-use space that could meet a lot of different needs. In a multi-use gymnasium, and I'll show you in a second some of the different things we could have happen in that space. Also adding a walking and jogging track. That was something that came out of our conversations with the committee. It also is supported by some of the national trends right now on what people want to do in a facility like this. So we've looked at adding a walking, jogging track into the facility, and then also relocating the office component within the building and the control desk to try and provide a single point of control in the facility. This sheet also helps us track kind of our project costs overall. At the bottom of this, you can see our construction costs are about $10.5 million, and we're impacting about 50,000 square feet of space between what we're adding on to the building and then remodeling in the building. In addition to the construction costs, there are also owner's soft costs, which are summarized on this particular sheet. That brings the total project cost of construction and soft costs up to $12.75 million. That does include a 10% contingency. A couple things that I don't think were in your packet that we were asked to provide some breakout on. So that assumes you take this and do this as one project. Now, you could say, let's phase this. Let's do one part of it right now and another part of it in a couple of years, another part of it later on. There's some inefficiencies when you do that from a cost standpoint. So we've tried to quantify here, if you were gonna take the locker room renovation part of this, got the locker rooms, reconfigure those as we've shown in our plan, that's about a $1.8 million total project cost for construction and soft costs associated with that work. The next slide looks at just breaking out the aquatics renovation. So renovating the existing natatorium, adding on the new natatorium with that. So that's about a $7.4 million total project cost for that particular project. And the third then would be the multi-purpose gymnasium, office space, remodeling that we had looked at. And that's about $4.8 million. The total of those three is $14 million, so that's about $1.25 million more than if you did it all at one time. But that's because we lose some efficiency of scale. When you're buying a bigger construction project, you can buy your costs down a little bit. You've also gotten more mobilization here. You've got 3 different contractors coming in at different times, so each of them is mobilizing on the site. So there's just some efficiency. So it's about a 10% premium to start to break it down that way.
Now, can I ask you something real quick?
Yes.
Just to get my, the first thing you mentioned, 12.5, 50,000 square feet
Yes.
affected. And I'm confused on this last one you just mentioned with the gym. How many square, is that part of the 50,000 square feet?
Yes.
Okay,
that is
and
part
so
of the
how much,
50,000.
on the 4 million is how much? How many square feet is affected by that $4 million, the last fee?
The last one touches about 20,000 square feet.
So it's 4.8 million touches 20,000 square feet, okay.
It's our, and it's our most economical space
Yeah, that's what I was-
because a large gymnasium space, multi-use space is the least expensive to build of any of the spaces we're looking at.
Thanks.
Now, one other thing that was not in your packet was to say, what if, instead of adding on and remodeling the existing building, we decided to go and build these components someplace else. So we're gonna build this multi-use gym, a jogging track, some office space, and the pool, all of the water that we've shown in this diagram. What if we went to a different site someplace and did that, had to build a parking lot to go with it, had to extend the utilities to the site, all of that. We estimate right now that would probably be about $20 million. This always varies from project to project, whether it's more economical to remodel or to go build new. Your particular building is in very good structural condition. So therefore, it's more expensive really to go out and build new right now than it would be to remodel the existing building, and that's what we've tried to demonstrate here. We've looked at some buildings in the past where it's more expensive to remodel, but they've got significant system issues, hazardous material issues, structural issues, some of those types of things, which your building does not have. So, the floor plan, the concept that we have come up with, this is the existing diagram of your facility. The yellow indicates the main east-west corridor through, and obviously the blue represents our water right now. So, as we've looked at this and we've put this together, we've looked at expanding the aquatics area to the south, and in that addition, we're locating our leisure water. So that's a warmer body of water, which is desired by leisure swimmers. It would have a current channel, and it would have some zero beach areas, some water sprays for young kids in that area, as well as a slide. We would remodel the existing pool and continue to use that for competition, lap swimming, diving. And then in the upper left-hand corner is our splash pad, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. At the far northeast corner is our multi-use gymnasium that would be added. That also includes an expansion of the corridor extending to the east. And then at the southwest corner is a remodeled part of the project, which would house offices and activity space, and directly north of our pool are our remodeled locker facilities. So we'll kind of dive into each one of those in a little more detail. The existing gym is a 2-court basketball facility. We're gonna look at adding to the east side of that another single-court, multi-purpose area. It would have the same size basketball court, but it also can do a lot of other types of things in that area. One of the nice things about this location is that if you wanted to have a special event in there, you could. You could have people come in from that east entrance into this space and zone it off kind of for use while the rest of the facility was being open. We're also adding some additional storage along that north side and continuing to use the existing storage.
The corridor that is in the yellow, is that a second floor, or is that the first floor?
Stairs.
First floor.
We have a stair and an elevator here that
Yeah.
take you up to the second floor. Second floor is where we have our jogging, walking track.
So the door there, right underneath the word corridor, that would be up above to get to access to the walking track?
No. No,
Main level walkway.
because that main corridor now has air conditioning and heating units.
Yeah, this is
So
just a walkway that takes you from an east.
Right, but is that corridor, is that strictly, that's not another floor up above the current corridor that's there?
No.
No,
Okay,
that's all new construction.
okay,
Your existing building actually stops right about there.
right, correct.
Mhm. So we're building all new out to the east there. And where that corridor is, we're gonna build that as 2-story space, because we're gonna add a walking, jogging track up above.
Now, how are you gonna access it? Where's the door to get to the walking track?
We've got a stair right here, and we're gonna use the stair in the cardio weights area.
Yeah, that's what I meant, this corridor where it says yellow, that's gotta be another layer, correct? That's gonna be an upper layer,
There'll be a second floor.
right?
Yes.
Correct.
This is that second floor.
Yeah, that makes sense, now I get it.
This is the second floor, yep. So here's that new court that we were just talking about. And we've got a stair and an elevator that provide access up to that. We also have access through the cardio mezzanine that now exists in the cardio strength area. We are building a elevated jogging track, walking track. It's about 1/10 of a mile long. That is part of the new construction and then goes above existing storage and new storage, and then we're suspending that in the existing gym through parts of that. So that is the upper level here, so you can gain access to a couple different locations.
What would be the capacity of that, the way it's planned right now, do you know,
Capacity of the,
of the elevated track? How many folks could we have up there at one time?
That's a good question. I would say we've got about 5,000 square feet of space on that jogging track. You could easily have 100 people up there at a time. 50 square feet per person.
So we probably hit fire code before we hit capacity.
Yes.
Or weight capacity.
Mhm. This shows in the existing gym, the construction of that jogging track. So it'd be about 14 feet above the existing floor. It is behind where the existing baskets are, you can see where they are. So that would be suspended within that particular environment. That multi-purpose court that we were just talking about does a lot of different things and meets the needs for a lot of different groups. So we've got traditional basketball, volleyball, badminton, and a rapidly growing sport, pickleball, futsal, a form of indoor soccer, certainly floor hockey could occur in there. We can have inflatables in there. We can have, with storage area, we could have play equipment, and from 10 till 11 in the morning, we could open that up as an indoor playground for kids and their moms to come in. Group exercise certainly, could be parties in there. Esports is another growing activity right now, which could happen in a gymnasium space like that, or health fairs and exhibits. Another part of the project is the existing west entrance, which now has an activity room with the offices. And what we've looked at doing here is kind of flipping this arrangement and remodeling it to get the control desk close to that west entrance. Therefore, we could have a single point of control as people are coming up to that particular location and gain a little bit better control over access to the facility. So this would move our offices to the west edge of that bar of space and the activity room to the east edge of that space.
Where you have between that activity room and the lockers, that big red circle you just put in there, there's an entrance in there.
Yes.
Where it says vestibule, how do you control that one?
We would look at this entrance and possibly the east entrance being closed off. I mean, there's still fire exits.
But there's no entrance.
No entrance.
Gotcha.
Or we could start to look at a system, and this kind of gets into the programming of maybe there's a key access or a fob access. If you're a member, maybe you get a fob which allows you access into those locations. We were trying to control it to get down to one point of access.
Get one point.
The locker rooms, we're looking at remodeling. Each one of these locker rooms has 160 lockers in it. So on the women's side and on the men's side, we have 160 lockers, access from the corridor, and then coming through into the locker and then into the natatorium space. In addition, we've created 4 family changing rooms, which we understand are very popular in the existing facility and used a lot. So we've looked at adding more of those. We've also added a lifeguard office and what we've called a wet classroom. It's a meeting room that has access from the dry side, from the games area, as well as access into the natatorium. So if somebody wanted to rent the pool for a birthday party on a Saturday morning, they could do that, and they could have kids in wetsuits going back and forth into that space. Or it could be used just as a meeting room if so desired. So there's a lot of flexibility with that particular area. The pool itself, again, we've got our lap and competition space. We've got our diving area remaining, and then we've got a splash pad in this area that is secured off with a glass wall so that the kids in that, the very young kids that are using that splash pad area, are not wandering off towards the deeper water in the rest of the natatorium. We also have a steam room and a sauna room. We have warmer water lap swimming in the leisure area in the new addition with our slide, a zero entrance area, as well as current channel at the far lower left corner of that space. And we are maintaining the whirlpool spa that exists in this diagram right now. Any questions about the floor plan arrangement?
I don't have a question about, well, I guess I do, that 16 and 17 down in the corner where that little circle in there, what is that? Is that?
Yeah, 16 is the
Therapy
current
water
channel.
seat, okay.
So we've got water moving and you can resistance walk against that. 17 is just a therapy water seat that can be built in as part of that current channel.
And then, my actual question is, are new facilities, I don't know how many are being built right now, if there's a lot or not, but are they still offering diving wells like what we have at this? Is that still something that?
Not very many are offering diving any longer. Most of the ones that do have diving are in a high school or collegiate setting where they have a competition. Mhm.
So a rec center like this typically would not
Typically would not.
have one at this time.
Now, we do have our high school
Compete here.
committee here, so.
The only thing I think you missed is number 21 will be the controls for the new pool.
The controls for the new pool.
Yeah, the block number 21.
The mechanical room.
Mechanical room by the, yeah.
Yeah.
So as we look at the exterior and interior, this is a view showing the west entrance with the existing parking lot. The addition parts of this are this pool expansion and the gymnasium expansion, kind of at the far end of this particular diagram. As we spin around the other side, in the foreground, then you see the gymnasium expansion. So the exterior of the building would have the same materials that you got on your existing building, the brick, the vertical metal siding that exists, metal panels.
Is that new, those must be new windows?
This is new windows that exist in that new gymnasium. So this is up at the level of the jogging track. New facilities typically do have a lot of glass in them. It's great for people when they're exercising to be able to look outside, but it's also desirable as you're driving by a facility like this, you see a lot of activity going on inside. So the building starts to become kind of a billboard of what's going on. So we tried to add glass where it made sense here, and we've done that around the gymnasium at that jogging track, and then also at the south side into the new pool space. So we've tried to keep natural light coming into that aquatics environment. This shows that east access point, the jogging track at the upper level. And the northeast corner with more of the glass. So from here, you'd be able to look out from that jogging track and see the football stadium, track, outdoor aquatics complex. This kind of street level looking east towards the main entrance and the pool.
Can you back up a slide? That set of windows by the walking track, is that gonna be added into the old part?
This
Yes.
set of windows right there is actually above new storage that we're building in that area. And that is new construction.
Okay.
So this is inside the new multi-use gym space at the elevated jogging track. So you can look down into the activity space here and see where that jogging track kind of meanders from the existing building out into this space and then off the right side of the screen back towards the existing building. This shows an aerial view down into that natatorium, which may give you a little bit better understanding of what's happening here, but this shows the glass wall that we were talking about that separates out that splash pad for the very young kids from the rest of the space. In the foreground, you're able to see the slide at that location, some lap swimming and kind of a group exercise part of the pool in the new construction. This is the existing pool looking towards the southwest with the splash pad showing off to the right side and looking towards the new addition in the back of this particular drawing. This shows that new pool with its slide, kind of the current channel in the foreground here, and just capturing a little bit off to the left side of the image here of the splash pad. This looks kind of to the southeast, out the windows on the south side of the building, with the zero entry area in the foreground and the current channel off to the right side. Any questions about any of those images? Okay, next we can talk through the market assessment. Darren, are you on? Don't know if Darren's on or not. Let me just kind of walk through this. I don't see him on. So the market analysis, Ballard King is a firm out of Denver, Colorado that does market analysis, operational plans for community centers around the country. And they were part of our team and had helped us through this part of it. So what they looked at is a service area, which is the city of Carroll plus a 15-minute drive time into the facility.
Was he calling into your system or calling?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, okay.
He was telling me he was calling in, so, but he has not jumped on. So they've gone through, and this actually looks at participation statistics for different types of activities. And when you look at some of the things that we've added into this project, the use of them is very popular. Primary service area, you can look at the population in 10, 19, and projected for 25, and it starts to give us that there are 38% of people participate in exercise walking. So that starts to look at how many people could be walkers in this facility based on your current and projected population. This also starts to look at other types of activities, for example, basketball, 8% of the population. Pickleball, not very much right now, but is growing significantly. Volleyball, wrestling, you can kind of look down through there. So that was one of the things that really helped drive us towards making sure we got a walking, jogging track in here, is because of the importance of that activity. So this looks at things that have increased over the last 10 years and things that have decreased from an exercise standpoint. Kind of just look down through that list. I think some of the interesting things here, certainly walking, jogging, aerobic group exercise is very popular, weightlifting, cardio types of equipment. And some of the decreases have been, wrestling, some swimming to some degree, although some of that's been because of the shifts towards more leisure water activities. So the assumptions as they went through their operational plan is that the city would continue to operate this. First year of operation would be 2022. There'd be 50 weeks of operation a year, and there'd be no internal chargebacks included. We've looked at some hours of operation, and there's continued to be 24-hour access to the cardio space. We've made sure our design does not eliminate that which currently does exist.
One quick thing with that, Al, if you don't mind. Back on the hours of operation, Sunday, right now we open at 8 a.m. This is suggesting we open at 10, same time the pool would open. And Monday through Friday, were 5:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. So there are those two little changes.
We also looked at part-time and full-time staff considerations. Want to add anything on that, Jack, or?
Membership coordinator isn't necessarily a full-time position we have at this point. And this is, adding basically another full-time person for custodial work.
And I should add, all these are suggestions, we're not
Suggestions, yes.
necessarily going to implement any of this, but I think as we move forward, it's a roadmap that we need to take a hard look at, because based on the size of our facility, the type of our facility, this is what similar facilities of our size has. And you know, I think like maintenance is a good point where we've had a lot of discussion. I think we have a team that does a really good job maintaining the facility, but it shows that based on the square footage, we're understaffed for what's expected.
And the operational plan was kind of based on these assumptions. So that's kind of what we moved forward with. So we looked at revenue generation opportunities in the facilities from a rental of space and from programs that could be offered within the facility.
One thing notice on those rentals is lap lanes. That'd be something different we're not currently doing. We're renting the facility, but swim teams, you know, they're required right now to be members, but they don't have any other obligations to like rent the facility, where if I came in to bring my AAU basketball team in, I'm gonna rent the court. So those are just things they've noticed and we've thought about, but I just want to make sure I point that out to you.
What is drive-in movies?
Dive-in movies, just the opportunity to put up a screen in the natatorium, show a movie, and have inner tubes. And people are just floating around watching a movie on a Friday or Saturday night.
And we've attempted that.
Popcorn.
Yeah.
There you go.
Jack, did you say the swim team is paying rent right now, right?
No. They have memberships, but when they close for swim meets.
But they are paying rent for practice time?
No.
For nothing?
Nothing.
Swim team is not paying rent?
No, they have memberships. We require them to have memberships to get in the facility, but they do not pay rent.
That's
They-
correct.
When they have a swim meet, they close the facility down like 2 weeks ago, they paid for the pool, they paid for the gym, and I think the auditorium or one of the other rooms they paid for. But today they're practicing from, and the school included, 4, 5 to 8 o'clock. They have exclusive rights to those lanes and they have memberships.
Okay.
So this looks at a proposed rate structure, monthly, annual, and looks at what the current rate structure is and the proposed new rates. So you can see single going from 50 to 55, adult 31 to 35, senior couple 45 to possibly 40. So we've provided those on an annual basis as well.
Were those based on other facilities or where did you come up with these figures?
Yeah, they're based on kind of what our consultant is seeing in the industry, but also looked at kind of other providers locally in this area.
So you could take from this that our current fees are fair from relative to other
Yeah.
places.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
Low, we're low.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
fair.
and I think they,
I'll change that to very fair.
Yeah, they are
Yeah.
very fair.
Okay.
And they would recommend a modest increase, but one of the things that I know staff really talked with them about is, you know, could we push them. I mean, I hear quite a bit that we're a very reasonable, fair facility, and that we should increase our rates. And so we pushed Darren to say, okay, and I mean, he really made it clear, he looked at not only what other facilities are charging like ours, but also really the ability to pay, and really, you know, based on incomes in our community, raising those much higher, he really felt that would really price us out of the market and people being able to afford the facility.
We don't do that. Yeah, so, okay.
We'll talk about this one, Jack. Proposed rate structure, income adjusted memberships.
Yeah, that's something different than we currently do. Right now, people that meet a certain income level, they're able, an adult's able to come into the facility for 50 cents each time. A youth, 25 cents. So every time they come in, they show us a card and they give us the money. Where you see other facilities, Wise, particular, other rec centers that do a guided or a slided fee according to their incomes. This was basically just taking 50% if they meet the qualifications. A lot of times, if a family meets similar school lunch requirements, but it's kind of how we guided it up, is from the school's lunch program. They would get their fees adjusted, basically 50% of regular membership is how we came up with that.
Any other questions on market analysis or operation?
Is there any questions on income adjusted membership? Because I know that will be a change for us. And you know, I think we want to provide an opportunity. It's been $1.50
Ever, day one, maybe.
And we're having some situations where I think we want, I mean, I wholly believe we want to make the rec center available, but we have certain members that are really, they're not, I think, connecting the value of the rec center. And I think to a certain extent, I've seen kind of abuse of our staff over it to a certain extent. And so I think we need to really make some, I mean, if they're gonna value coming to the rec center, I think they need to have some buy-in to the facility and the charges we charge for that. I think it's still providing the opportunity to participate, but let's add that value component.
You'll see them pay the 50 cents and then just sit down, you know, on the lobby. Just to have a place where a bunch of people get together instead of actually doing exercise.
And we're talking, last time I checked, if I would have thought of this earlier, I would have had Joel look it up. About 400 individuals qualify for this that use our facility on a regular basis. So if you want to know a number, about 400 individuals.
Where did we come up with the senior citizen fees there? Is that just
We have them now.
arbitrary or?
We have senior citizen fees now.
Okay.
So I just took every category, basically put it in half. And it's something, if we get to this point,
Yeah, no, I mean the income adjusted, we don't have that now, do we?
no.
Do we ever have income adjusted? Okay,
No.
how do you know what?
Basically,
how are you
they're
determining
adult.
Their income, if we are determining an adult on school lunch,
Right.
what about a senior citizen? What do you determine, how do you decide whether they qualify?
You'd go off whatever, trying to think of the word, their income or
So you
the
just have
poverty
to
line.
show their income
Yeah,
to you? Okay.
yeah. Similar to an adult or family, they would have to show us their income and try to base it off of that, similar numbers. And one thing, and this is down the road, but there might be some opportunities, I know other facilities, so if you give half off that membership, you backfill it with local sales tax or hotel motel tax, so you have a full membership, so the rec center is getting basically a full membership. Those things we can talk about when we get closer to that, if we wanna try to, we'll get you a lot better numbers and finances, so you can make those good decisions.
Al, I'm on the phone. This is Darren.
Hi, Darren.
Yeah. What's PA?
Sorry guys, that was late.
Pam, please, pre-authorized monthly payment. Automatically withdrawn. They commit to a year, and we tell them that they can pay that over 12 months, equal payments. That's Pam.
I'm curious, you use a 15-minute drive time as a basis for some of your metrics here. Is that valid for a community like Carroll? I would have felt that it would have been 25 minutes, or 25 minutes.
Darren, did you hear that question about the 15-minute drive time?
Yeah, yeah, so it really depends upon the client that we're working with. We could go ahead and if you bumped it out to 25, there wasn't a huge significant difference in the population. Is it a conservative estimate? Yeah, it's a conservative estimate. Could you pull from as far as 15, 25 to 30? Probably, but for purposes of the study, it didn't change the demographics all that much to go ahead and bump it out.
I like conservative use, that works.
Typically, if we're going ahead and if we're doing this with like a private vendor and you're in a major metropolitan area, you almost pick a point and then you can go ahead and put a 5-mile radius around it. Obviously, with you guys not having that population concentration, we thought using a drive time was a better reflected what might actually take place.
Other market or operation questions? Let's jump to the community survey results. ETC Institute is the firm that we had retained to help with this, and I apologize, Jason is not on the phone, he's on an airplane right now. So I'll kind of go through some of this. This was a 6-page survey that was sent out to members of the community. Our goal was to get 300 of these responses back. We got almost 400, so we had a very good sample size. So what did that tell us? Current use. Within the last year, have you or members of your household utilized Carroll Recreation Center? 56% have. 68% of those use it at least monthly.
And I'm sorry, Al, I'm interrupting, but just for a point of perspective, that's a really high usage rate. I mean, it's not uncommon when we go ahead and do surveys like this that, you know, you go ahead and see 15 to 20% of the population. So to have over 50% of respondents to say they've used the facility is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and almost 40% are weekly. So it's
I mean, those kinds of usage rates really goes ahead and shows you what kind of asset the current facility is to the community at large.
What programs do you and members of your household take part in? Indoor pool, 63% by and large, the largest. Basketball, 26%. Swim lessons, still associated with the pool, another 24%. So you can see kind of looking down through those. How satisfied are you with the following operational aspects? So high satisfaction with operational aspects of the Carroll Recreation Center, kind of as a summary there. And you look at customer service, instructor, hours of operation, maintenance, cleanliness, programs, all satisfied, very satisfied, over 77% in all cases on that. Which operational aspects are most important to your enjoyment? So the cleanliness and maintenance ranks number 1, then followed by programs, hours of operation, and customer service. Poor instructors got no respect down there at 7%. How satisfied are you with the following major components? So again, very high satisfaction with location, parking, the weight, gymnasium, theater, heating, cooling. You got to get all the way down to lockers before you get less than half of the responses being satisfied or very satisfied. Which major components are most important to your enjoyment? Indoor pool, 50% of people, followed by the gym, the weight room, and then on down through the other spaces.
The other thing I would offer, this is Darren, I apologize for interrupting. The other thing I would offer is that the type of pool you have right now goes ahead and serves a pretty specific segment of the population, but the leisure pool you're talking about including, yeah, wouldn't be surprised to see even more people going ahead and using that amenity.
Good point. Ways households find out about recreation programs and services in Carroll: social media, newspaper, citywide website, flyers, recreational brochures, and others. Now, potential improvements to the CRC. Which aquatic features do you and members of your household feel are most needed? 66% of households feel at least once indoor aquatic feature, at least one indoor aquatic feature is needed. So you can see 37% play-oriented pool. That gets to the leisure components that are being added to this. 29% warm water for fitness and exercise. That second pool, the leisure pool, gives us that warm water component for fitness and exercise. 26% with the hot tub or whirlpool, which we would be rebuilding as part of this. Swim lessons, 26%. Warmer water for therapy, which we've got with the second body of water now, 19%. Lanes for lap swimming, 18%. So at the bottom of that is the diving and the competition pool space. Which recreation program areas do you and members of your household feel are most needed in an indoor aquatic center? Raised walking and jogging track, very high, 35% say that is something that they think it's either their first or second choice to have a raised walking track. Health and wellness programming, sports activities, fitness, aquatics, 16% is their first or second choice. So we're hitting on that walking, we're hitting on health and wellness with the multi-purpose gymnasium space, certainly the aquatics. So we're hitting a number of the things that were requested as part of that. The importance of Carroll Recreation Center serving various groups of residents. 70% of households feel it's important to serve all groups of residents. Not a big surprise there. Prioritizing improvements to the CRC compared to other issues. What priorities the development of an updated recreation center? So this has about 35% say it's a very high or high priority. When you add in the medium priority there, you're about 60%. How supportive are you of Carroll Parks and Recreation operating a licensed daycare inside an updated recreation center? 15% very supportive, another 22% supportive. How supportive are you of potential actions the City Council could take to enhance the recreation offerings? 59% of households are supportive of redevelopment, improvement of the existing recreation center, compared to 21% who are not supportive. How much additional property taxes would you pay per year to help support the development of an improved Carroll Recreation Center that includes features most important to your household? So 25% would approve additional property taxes of $10 to $20. Another 12%, $21 to $30 increase. And 56% said, I would not support any increase to property taxes. Why did you answer, I would not support any increase to property taxes, or don't know to additional property taxes per year to help support the facility? So 52% said they would not because I do not support any increase to taxes. 34%, I believe Carroll currently offers sufficient recreation opportunities. 30%, I believe those who plan on using new community recreation facilities should bear the burden of paying for it. 22%, I would not use new community recreation facilities. And 19, I need more information. So how supportive would you be of increasing the current family membership rate, $10 per month, to cover the additional costs needed to complete improvements to the Carroll Recreation Center? 23% are very supportive, and an additional 23% are supportive. So 46% are supportive or very supportive, 35% not supportive. So in summary, it's a very high use facility. The most important components of the facility are the indoor pool, the gymnasium, and the weight space. The indoor pool and the gymnasium are certainly components that are being looked at as being enhanced as part of this. There is support for improvements. The aquatic features that are most needed: play-oriented pool, which we're providing, warm water, which is being provided, the hot tub, and then an area for swim lessons. And then the recreation program areas households feel are most needed: raised walking track, which is being provided, health and wellness, sports, and fitness. Any questions on the survey results? I think the next steps that we had identified in the packet was you were talking about a referendum in the spring of 2020. And we've got available for your assistance with all of the renderings and other information as part of this study. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Jack, anything else you want to add?
I got some thoughts here.
Yep.
Just looking at all these charts, I studied this today. 56% of the people use the rec center and 40% of the people use it weekly. That doesn't even count the splash pad and the walking trail, which, if you look at these charts, is at the top almost all the time, or both of them. So you're gonna, based off 12,000 people, we're looking at 4,400 people to join the rec center. What do we have, 3,000 something now?
3,000, yeah.
My concern is where we're gonna park. If you're gonna, if the splash pad and the walking trail are high on the list for a lot of people that are not even using that percentage probably now, you're gonna add a lot of people to this thing. I think we need to look at somehow more parking. If you're taking that survey and calculating it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because right now we've got the parking off to the west, and then we've got some potential overflow parking to the north.
If I understood it right, you'd almost eliminate the east parking because there's no access to that door.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah, we wouldn't.
Well, people use it now.
I think you'd have to have a fob. You can't get rid of that
You-
parking.
Right.
And my understanding is 20 years ago that east door wasn't open. It always hasn't been open, that they had the west side. But that would be a concern. And if you meet certain requirements, we can give you a fob on the east side to get in. There'd be a camera, so when the fob hits the magnet, we could be looking at our control desk to get in there.
Hey Al, can you pull up the page, it's pretty much at the beginning of your PowerPoint where you had a kind of design concept, kind of overview of the entire site. Like this one here, I know there was a lot of discussion in the green space that is in the southwest corner of putting parking. So I know the committee looked at a couple options where you could put additional parking.
Right. We had looked at some parking in that area. We looked at some additional parking kind of up in this area as well.
But we may
Well, I used to say I drive by, sometimes 5, 6 o'clock at night. The parking lot's maybe a half full, it's not, but the thing of it is that once you have people that are gonna come in there and recreate, but then you got something going on in the auditorium, there's no place to park. And for people who wanna use the rec center, there's no parking. There are the dance
Swimming,
recitals,
Yeah, there's a lot of, there's several nights that parking lot's full from other users than members.
You drive on Grant Road, right?
yeah, I go Grant home.
When
so
I
can
go to
see
the
it.
rec center, I park on the east side, and there's times it's all full. You
Right.
gotta park in the baseball stadium area. That's why I think you're misjudging it by that east side shutting it off, 'cause there's a lot of people park on that east side.
And I think it's just operationally looking at how do we control that entrance better? And certainly giving members the ability to park over there in key fobs, I think is a pretty easy way to just kind of operationally control that. You know, what we don't want is just people, we're having situations where people are walking in and are not checking in and really are not paying to use the
That's the
facility.
problem now.
They get the gymnasium doors left open for them.
But I'm getting back to my question is parking, do we wait until, if this passes, and see what type of attendance we have increase? Or do we put in that parking as part of the bond referendum?
I think you could take either approach. I think you could do,
I mean, could we afford to finish that out 2 or 3 years after this thing's been built? And put it in a parking area? And then don't put it in the bond referendum bill?
you could do that.
All right.
Yeah, we could look at other ways, certainly this location, there's possibility of even some parking at the southeast. So we could look at how you could optimize parking on the site. You're not gonna double it, but you're gonna gain.
You know, one thing we could do operationally, maybe would give us a good gauge, is offer, you know, the members that are coming to use just the workout room. You know, even if they're not 24-hour access, you know, we could set it up where those key fobs will only work in the window that is our normal hours of operation, and then they could park on the north side, and that in itself would free up parking.
Yeah, good point.
Good idea.
Do you have a formula to calculate how much parking would be required?
This is Darren, and I don't mean to interrupt. I apologize. I would offer that, you know, technology is an option, like we just mentioned. That, you know, over on the east side, if we wanted to make sure we had control, at least going ahead and allowing members that park over there to have key fob access. The other thing you have to remember too is with the increased use, the walking track is going to be most appealing for people to use during the daytime. And the warmer water is going to go ahead and be really appealing during the daytime. And then the warmer water in the gymnasium, especially when you're just breaking it down to base components, would be evening time. So I'm not contradicting the need for more parking. I think that's a reasonable concern, but we also have to remember, you know, you're dealing with almost a 90-hour-a-week operation, but that's going to be spread over.
But there's a formula to calculate usage.
Yeah.
How many parking stalls you need.
Look at zoning ordinance and some other guidelines. Right.
I just went through that with our medical clinic, because I helped design that. And there's a formula for how much usage we have and how much parking we have to have. So we just increased our footprint, we had to recalculate, we had to add more parking. So we just did that too. So I know I'm sure you can apply the same thing to something along this line.
Absolutely.
Maybe if we could have that information, that would help. Thanks. But I think no matter what, Jack, even if we did increase, it's still, like I say, you still see that issue with the dance recitals. And then the concerts are there, the plays are there.
Football, and now you have track in the spring, more track meets.
Right. It's almost, an additional parking would probably almost be a necessity.
Yeah.
Because of the need. There's a lot of times during the year those are full.
As follow-up, can you get us the new cost breakdowns you have? that-
Yes.
Cause I think those are helpful as we kind of go through.
You've been around this a lot. When we have football games and track and that, they're using our parking, or the rec center. Have you ever run across an answer to something like that?
No, just staffing the parking lot. Manning the access points into it. It's about the only thing I've ever seen that's very effective.
And then the question is, does the city want to take that step?
No, I was just seeing if you had something.
And I think one thing that we've kind of talked internally is, I think there's certain areas in this parking lot that we should restrict for rec center use only. I mean, when an entire lot is taken up by activities that are happening at the stadium, that's good for the stadium, but that has a real impact to our members and how they're getting here. And I'm not saying that we would restrict the entire parking lot, but I think there are a certain number of spaces that we need to have for our members and their use of the rec center.
I guess the other thing that, if we are breaking this down into a couple of components, I don't know if the walking track and the basketball court's gonna add a whole lot more usage for the additional parking, but I would have the feeling that the swimming would.
I think the walking track will.
Think
That's the number one thing. You've experienced that too. I think you'll see a rise in senior citizens memberships.
So
At least during the winter months, I mean, a lot of times during the summer, we're getting more trails in our area, they won't use as much during the warm months, but winter months, when it's cold, icy, yeah, go out, run track.
Your air conditioning, that's in the budget.
Right. Well, then if there's a consideration to do it that way, then probably you would wanna look at the parking right off.
So I brought it up.
How about the cost of a parking lot over there?
We'll add that in.
Yeah.
Give that as a option.
Option two. Anything else? I guess if nothing, we'll let Michael get a hold of you too, and we go from there too.
Okay, very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think for our next steps, what we really plan to do is in December to have some conversations with council about what next steps you want, keeping in mind that that first meeting in January would be the last regular council meeting that the council could set a referendum for March. And we have to file that with the county auditor by that Friday. So
The last meeting in January?
the first meeting in January. So I think that's the 13th, yes.
And did you look it up, Laura? There's only 2 times to vote next year?
Correct.
September,
March
the
and
other one?
September, yeah. That was September.
I believe it's September. I know November is no longer an option. The legislature last session made some changes to that.
Heaven forbid you get everybody to come out and vote in November.
Yeah, I guess the only thing, I've noticed this, just sitting here looking at it, under the design concept, the locker rooms. So if the men, and one of the nice things about this whole plan is the sauna and steam room, because you have more access to those than what you do have right now. Right now, the sauna and whirlpool, well, we'll just say the sauna, the only time that's open is when it's there's lifeguards and when the pool's open. This concept is gonna be able to be open during our hours, so 5:30 in the morning till 9 at night. The only thing is, what it looks like is the men coming from the locker room would actually have to go out in the hallway, go through the commons area, and then through the other doors to get over to the steam room and sauna. So that'd be the only thing, if there's any way to look at that. I'm not seeing any other doors, but maybe there's something we can do so they don't have to go out on the hallway and then through the commons to get those hours.
Would the walking track be available for a 24-hour access? That
How is it?
something that-
Do you wanna explain again between the mezzanine and the running track, is that all open?
It's not open, we've got it closed.
I know we talked at meetings both ways, but.
Yeah, so we've kept a wall in there so we can secure those off. So the track could be outside of your 24-hour access. As soon as we get people up on that, then we need to get them back off. And what we would need to do is take our stair at the other end and make sure it exits directly outside and not back down into that main corridor. If we wanted to have that open 24 hours. I think
You would
there's a
have
way
to
we
have
could
two
do it.
access points. I assume for code, you probably have to have 2 ways to get down.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Jumping is not preferred.
Yeah. Do parachute lessons.
And we do allow people in that corridor at night. We don't
Okay.
allow them in the gym today, is that correct?
That's correct.
But they are allowed to get to the family restrooms at night,
All right.
but the
Yep.
gyms, pool, everything else is secure.
Yeah. So then that could work. Mm-hmm. Okay. Very good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Darren.
Thanks, Eric.
He's gone already. If there aren't any other questions or anything else, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and vote, please.
Haley,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Dirk,
Yes.
Fletcher,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Base. We are adjourned.
Thank you.